Hey everyone, it is Alex again, and I'm back with another build for the Sanctum League, and this is my attempt at mana stacking in 320. So, mana stacking has been a little weak for a few leagues now. A lot of people have pretty much stopped playing it. It was really meta about a year ago, but it has fallen off since. I decided to give it a shot, and I really wanted to explore having absolutely ludicrous amounts of mana recovery. So I think what you're seeing on the screen is something like 5,500 a second, which is obviously very, very good. I'm using, of course, agnostic and all that kind of thing. But what this is Indigon Hierophant with Arc Totems. So we aren't Archmage. We're not using Archmage, but we are using Indigon, and of course Arcane Cloak, Sigil of Power, that kind of thing. So we're getting a lot of mana cost scaling from the Indigon. We're spending a lot of mana very quickly, which is giving us a lot of increased spell damage. Then we're utilizing 69% Mind Over Matter effect, along with a shitload of mana recovery rate and mana regeneration rate. And so all that put together makes us able to permanently sustain RF and all those kinds of things and get a lot of damage scaling. I've just been leveling up with the character. This is definitely a very early version of the character. I'm level 92. Um, been doing a bit of farming. I decided to move on, finally change my farming strategy. I haven't changed it in a little while. This one is Bestiary, Essence, and a little Harbinger as well on the side. That's what we're running with this character right now. It's actually been really, really smooth. Once I got a lot of the mana recovery feeling good, the build definitely really started to open up. The damage is really good once you get all the buttons pushed and things working properly. Obviously, there's a lot of buttons to push. You've got the Arcane Cloak flat damage, as well as it proccing level 20 Arcane Surge. You've got the Indigon mana spent scaling, so you want to have spent probably 2 or 3 whole mana pools, so probably something like maybe like 1,500 mana is going to be about the max that you could spend in that 4-second window reasonably. You need the Sigil of Power stacked up. You need both curses going off. You need the Vortex under the boss with the gloves. They give the chilling area increased lightning damage. I think it's Algor Mortis is what they're called. And then you can also plus Vol RF. I haven't been pressing that button very often because I just simply haven't really needed it, and I'm not super comfortable with taking all that damage. But it's probably okay for the most part. I haven't done a lot of bossing yet, but I did do a Phoenix here to be able to show off a bit of the single target, and you guys will get to see that. I think the DPS in this current version of the build, I'd say with everything up and feeling good, it's probably 10 million. I'd say around, but that window that everything is up is pretty small, so I think a pretty consistent 5 million at the moment. Probably a bit more though. It has felt pretty good. It's a really high recovery playstyle. I've got something like 7.5k HP when you take the mom into effect, and a bit of power charge stacking and all that. So we can go ahead and see the Phoenix here. You see the damage is pretty okay. I'm trying to get all the things going. I got the Vortex under, I've got both curses on, trying to summon more totems inside the Sigil of Power to get that flat damage going. And the damage is okay, as you can see. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the build so far, and let's go ahead and get into the details. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the character. As you can see, I am rocking absolutely 0 MTX. I can just never bring myself to run MTX when I'm playing a Hierophant with Cloak of Defiance. It, the natural visual 3D 3D effect of it is just too fantastic. Like the nice open robe style, and then of course with Indigon just having the piece of paper sitting right in the middle of his face, it cracks me up every time. I can just never put MTX on on a Templar wearing that gear. It just cracks me up. I love it. So no MTX for this character, absolutely. But yeah, so getting into the gear, we'll start with gear. We're running Cloak of Defiance. This is pretty obvious, just mana and mana regen. Cloak of Defiance did get changed. I think it was last league. I don't remember. Maybe 2 leagues ago. It got changed to where it no longer has that 10% damage to life taken as mana. and they instead buffed Mind Over Matter to be 40% instead of the previous 30%. So this chest still gives the same effects. It's just that there's slightly more opportunity cost in the fact that you could simply spend 1 point to get the same Mind Over Matter effect. However, there are very few sources of percentage, like flat base regen, and so this 1% from Cloak of Defiance is really hard to pass up. There's also not particularly good influenced mods on a chestplate or more mana. So at the moment, I am simply running Cloak of Defiance. Probably will go looking for a corrupted one with like +2 gem levels or something like that, with probably a few divines. I wouldn't imagine it being too expensive, simply because mana stacking is not super popular this league. So I'll probably be looking at the near future for the build. I'm excited to do that. No one go price fixing that, okay? Don't do that to me. Yeah, so mana stacking, Indigon, of course. I've got a +1 power charge Indigon. Arc doesn't have a particularly powerful enchant. You can get the +1 chain, but it's only like a 7% more single target. It's not a huge deal, so I just went for the power charge corrupt because I am doing a bit of power charge stacking. And this was, I think, 1 divine. Nothing too crazy. The second to last unique of the build, and this is actually something that I was inspired to use for this build, and part of the reason I made it, is an amulet I have never seen anyone use, but I was very excited to use because I'm very fascinated by the idea of the exponential effect of something like damage taken from mana before life, like from Mind Over Matter. And the more you get, the more powerfully it scales your life into mana. So here we've got the Aylardex, something like that. I don't know. A 1-alch unique, like day 1 of the league. Literally no one ever uses this because it has a pretty hefty downside for power charge stacking, and that is the reduced critical strike chance per power charge. But we are LE overload, so we don't care too much about that. That pretty much just cancels out the effect from power charges, giving you increased crit chance. And instead, power charges now give you 10% mana regeneration rate, and 1% of damage is taken from mana before life. Now, I have 9 power charges. This gives me 90% mana regen, which is pretty solid. At Zeri's foible will give you something like 130%, I think, maybe a little bit more. So it is less than at Zeri's foible, but it is still in a very appreciable amount. It then also gives that mom effect, which is what I usually will call it from now on, at 1% per power charge, and we have 9 power charges, so this is 9%. So at the moment, we have the Mind Over Matter from Cloak of Defiance for 40%. We have the Heirophant Divine Guidance for another 10%. And then finally, we have a Clarity Watcher's Eye right here for another 10%. So that is totaling 40, 50, 60% from the tree and a jewel, and then this amulet is giving me another 9% from the power charge stacking. So we're a total of 69%, nice, mom effect. What this means is that, to give it in kind of a tangible math perspective, if we had 3,100 life, and we had 6,900 mana, and we took 10,000 damage, both of them would be at 0 at the exact same time. So that rate would perfectly match up. Like the totals would perfectly match up. At my current 2,200 life, it is going to be something around 4.5k in mana that it matches up to. Because you're imagining you got 31% and 69%. It's pretty close to 1/3 and 2/3. So it's going to be about that. So we have a total of probably about nearly 7k HP, maybe a little bit less. I'm going to go ahead and D&D. So that's kind of how it works. I definitely need a higher life pool, and I will be looking at reducing the level of my clarity, which is what's reducing my life pool so much. But the build will be getting a higher life pool, probably somewhere around 3k, and then probably 7.5, maybe pushing 8k mana. I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to get more mana. I see builds with like 19,000 mana. I know that they're doing the int and strength stacking with Shaper's Touch and all of that, but I think there's still some tools that I'm missing because I feel like I should have more than 6,800. So I'm gonna need to look on PoE Ninja to see if I can find some tricks to get more mana. But that's the hope in the end. So probably have somewhere around a 10k HP pool, but right now we have about 6.5 to 7k HP pool. That's the whole point with this amulet here. And of course, like I said, because it is a you know, a 1 alch amulet from like the day one of the league, you know, people will drop these things, particularly from everyone doing the Ball Temple farming is where I would imagine this came from. So people are going to be doing Vol Temple farming, and they're getting all kinds of uniques with corrupts and double corrupts, and lots of 1 alch trash uniques that really very few people are going to use are getting very nice corrupts, and this is definitely one of them. I was looking for the +1 curse, and then I just so happened to find one that also had +1 max res. It just takes me from 75 to 76. It's not a huge deal. Really doesn't do a whole lot for my tank, but you know, it's better than nothing. I think it was pretty cheap when I bought this. I think it was like 50C. I don't think there's another one out there on the market, but you can just get the +1 curse, skip the all res, the max res. I think there was one for sale with 16 all res, which would actually be quite nice. See some stuff fix, that kind of thing. And then the last unique of the build is Algor Mortis. This is simply that I think this is a pair of gloves a lot of people use with lightning damage builds. If you have a chilling area, it makes them take increased lightning damage. I'm probably going to end up dropping these gloves simply because that increased lightning damage taken stacks additively with shock, and I get 50% shocks very easily in this build. So it's not 33% more damage, it's probably somewhere in the range of like 20% more damage, which is still very good, especially because it also chills and saps. So it is very effective, but I think there is some value that I could get out of gloves, particularly if I end up going int stacking. In the end of the build, it will probably be running Shaper's Touch for more life, or something like that. There's not a lot of good rare glove mods for mana stacking, but maybe I can figure something out. Maybe there's another unique that makes sense. But that's what I'm on right now. If you're wondering why I have nothing socketed in there, it's because, well, A, I'm lazy and I haven't really bothered to recolor this thing to put stuff in it. And B, there's actually not a whole lot left for this build. This build does not have high socket pressure. There's really not much more to put there. I could use a golem, but I kind of hate dealing with golems because they're just going to be dead 99% of the time. You could put Vol Haste if you really wanted to. That's about as much as I can think of. Vol Haste is pretty easy. I should probably just put it in there. But it's just another damage button to press, and I didn't really want to deal with that. Another temporary buff. It doesn't really matter all that much. So it does look stupid, and I should figure out something to do with it, but that's what I'm doing right now. Maybe there's some casting damage taken stuff I could set up. Who knows? I'll have to think about that. If you have any ideas in the comments, let me know. I'm not really too sure what to do with those sockets. Alright, so the rest of the gear, we're running 2 rings that are almost identical. I crafted one of these and then bought the other one. I don't remember which was which. Basically, I just mana fossil. No, sorry. I actually essence mana regeneration spammed. So I just spammed the mana regen essences on a cerulean ring base with the life and mana quality on there until I got a decent mana roll and like anything else that was good. And in this case, I got T2 mana and a T1 cold res, and I said, that's good. Craft Frenzy charges, call that a day. So that's that ring. And then this one was the one I bought, I remember now. Also T2 mana. This one's a T1 mana regen, not an essence. And then we got T2 lightning res, T1 strength. I do actually need that strength. And then I crafted life on this one. This one I may end up getting rid of that minimum frenzy charge and crafting life, because like I said, I actually do really need more life. So I might end up switching that craft. This wand is actually very important. Mostly because of the implicit. I'll talk about that after I talk about the rest of the affixes. Pretty much just looked for mana and cast speed. Mana and cast speed are the 2 things you absolutely need. Cast speed because we don't really have much in the build. We already have a lot of increased damage from Indigon. So you want to go for cast speed. The rest of it is pretty much just whatever is available, because a lot of it's good. +1 lightning skills, +1 all skills, added lightning damage to spells. Spell damage is Spell damage and lightning damage are less good because you're going to have a lot of increase from Indigon, but those first three are really good. +1, added lightning, and the other +1. So those are what you want for prefixes. Like, to be honest, I think the ideal prefixes of this doesn't have any increased damage. It would just be added lightning and +2. Because this build simply has an absolutely obscene amount of increased spell damage. Because we're spending easily 10k mana in the last 4 seconds. Like, probably always. Probably upwards of more like 15k. So, with that in mind, we are spending, let's say we spent 10k mana, right? That means we're getting 50 times 22% increased spell damage, which is like 1000% increased spell damage. So increased spell damage is very much not particularly necessary for the build. Like, I think if you get like a T1 increased spell damage on this wand, it'd be 10% more DPS or something like that, which I think is pretty competitive with a +1 skill level. So just something to remember. So as far as why I went with an accumulator wand, there's actually a very specific reason for this. I couldn't figure out how to generate power charges, and I spent a long time racking my brain how I was actually going to generate power charges in this build. Obviously, Heirophant has a minimum of 4, but I needed more than 4. I needed up to my 9. And so I was really trying to figure out how I was going to do that in this build. But I realized that this amulet actually gives you up to 100% increased power charge duration. So that got me thinking, well, if I have 20-second duration of charges, maybe I can get away with a semi-inconsistent, charge generation setup. And so I was thinking about Accumulator Wand, and I went, okay, well, it's one of the random charges every 6 seconds. It's a 1 in 3, and it has 3 chances. That's not super consistent, though, so I was looking at adding increased power charge duration and increased power charge duration to make it a bit more consistent. And I felt that that might be okay. It'd probably be a little inconsistent, though, and I wasn't super happy with the idea. But then I bought the amulet and tried it out, and very quickly realized I wasn't getting any frenzy charges. And my power charges were easily sustaining, like not even close. Now, this may occasionally drop. There's like I think a 1 in 100 chance every 3 goes that we lose the power charges. It's very consistent. And that's because I forgot half the line of Inner Conviction, and that you gain power charges instead of frenzy charges. So every 6 seconds, there's a 2 in 3 chance that I get a power charge, and a 1 in 3 chance that I get an endurance charge. And because we have a 20-second power charge, this means it is incredibly consistent. We almost always are sitting at max power charges. There is a very small chance that it will go away, but it is very rare. And even once that does happen, I'll be back up to max power charges in about 30 seconds or so. So this little combo ended up being very consistent, and I was very happy with that. So you need an accumulator wand. There actually is one other way to get the power charges, because there is a shaper suffix that gives you a power charge for every 200 mana that you spend with a skill. It's basically exactly the same as the occultist mod on its power charge stacking node. That is a shaper suffix, and you could run that. It might be a prefix. I don't remember. It's a shaper affix on wands. But I really didn't want to do that because it was probably going to mean that I'd have a pretty shit wand otherwise, because I'm not going to be putting a load of money into making a really good wand with this very specific shaper affix that had no mod types on it, so there's no way to roll for it properly, like not even mana. And there was no, the weighting was not good. So I really did not want to have to try and craft a good wand with that mod. And so I'm very happy that this ended up working out. Just to get it out the way, the relic is cast speed and cold damage recoup. It's nothing insane. It's a bit of extra damage from the cast speed. What have I not covered yet? The shield is mana regen, and +1 totem. So I got the hiccups. Mana regen, and +1 totem. So this I just managed to find on the market. I just got lucky. 4T1 on a shield and crafted life. It's honestly really lucky that this existed at all. Trying to craft something like this may have not been super fun, so got lucky on that front. Um, I don't really know how you'd craft something similar consistently. I'd probably just look for one that has maybe life and mana regeneration rate. I imagine someone wouldn't value that super highly. So if you see +1 totem, life, mana regeneration rate, you could craft mana on it. And so you'd be in a similar situation that I'm in right now. So something like that might exist out there, be a bit more consistent. Might be able to find something. As far as crafting, I really don't know. +1 totem, I think, is a pretty rare mod, so you're going to have some issues getting that properly set up. The belt. So the belt is kind of scuffed right now. I definitely could use an upgrade here. I crafted this myself. Bought a Stygian Vice, hit it with a Redeemer Orb, put the life and mana catalyst on there, and just spammed mana fossils. We're looking for increased mana recovery rate Redeemer mod. And you can see we got T2 here at 8%. It goes up to 12%, I think, on T1. And then good flat mana is what I was looking for. So you see here I got T2 and then T1 flat mana. I decided, okay, I'll stop because this actually took quite a few rolls to hit. That mana recovery rate mod is actually quite rare, but is an exceedingly powerful mod because it is multiplicative with all this increased mana regeneration rate that we have on the rest of our gear. So it is a very powerful mod. I'm looking to maybe upgrade this to have T1, and then literally any other good mod. I literally don't get anything from the energy shield. The flask recovery rate's not good because it actually makes my mana flask shorter, which I don't want. And then the life regen is not bad, but not good either. They're running agnostic anyway. It's going to give me ridiculous amounts of life recovery. So definitely looking to recraft this, something better. The jewel, I bought I don't know. To be honest, there's probably better that you could just buy out there, but I just bought this stupid base that there's no reason to buy this base. But I just did it because I was like, oh, cool, there's a synthesized base. And slapped some mana fossils on there and got this. I don't know. I mean, it's okay. I'm reasonably happy with it. I do need the dexterity, and the resists are nice. So I said this is cool and stuck with it. I probably won't replace this because I do need the stats. So the boots are another synthesized base that I was just looking around being silly. This one I actually think is worth having. I get 20 mana, which is actually pretty reasonably nice. 30% mana regen. Again, that constitutes probably 200 increased mana regen, something like that. Maybe 100 to 200 extra mana regen. Pretty powerful. And then Unwavering Stance. And Unwavering Stance is just stun immunity. But I can't evade things, so we have no evasion rating. Not that I was really scaling it anyway. But we get stun immunity, which is nice. This is just a random find. It's not particularly necessary. I'm pretty sure there are decent Eldritch Implicits that you go for anyway. It's not a huge deal. And stun immunity. And actually, I'm not running a single Pantheon. I just was way too lazy to make a Pantheon. To be honest, I would probably take this. And then, if I had to choose, I would probably say the Poisons. So, I should probably have had those flicked, but I haven't done the Pantheons yet. I will probably do that between now and the next video. Go get all the upgrades and stuff. And then to craft them, I was slamming Chaos Essences, Chaos Resist Essences. And I basically just hit this as is, minus the armor and evasion rating. I hit the T1 Chaos Res, T2 Fire, T1 Lightning, and the T3 movement speed. I said, holy shit. I was planning to get good suffixes and then do suffixes cannot be changed Veiled Chaos Orb, like a lot of people do with boots, to get the unveiled movement speed and then craft life or mana or something. What I ended up with was something that already had the movement speed. I said, okay, you know what? I'll just stop there. I'll save myself the money and just craft mana and slam. The reason I craft mana is because this base of armor and evasion rating can't actually roll mana, so I have to craft it. So I actually want to just have the mana. I craft mana and slam. I wanted to hit. I should have actually. You know what? Now that I think about it, I should have crafted increased armor and evasion rating. That actually would have made more sense. Now that I think about it. You know, you lose some, you win some. Lesson learned. Because it can't roll mana, there's no reason to block it. I should have crafted the other thing. I was hoping for life. So, whoops. We ended up with armor evasion rating. Oh well. Sometimes the pray and slam doesn't always work. Good old division. Anyway, as far as let's do the tree next. Actually, we'll do the skill gems last. As far as the tree, we are doing Divine Guidance again. We're doing Pursuit of Faith, Ritual Awakening. The reason behind Heirophant is simply this. Like the reason I'm doing totems, the reason I'm doing Heirophant is this node right here. Period. This node right here. And specifically for the second line, regenerate 0.5% of mana per second for each summoned totem. Remember how I said base mana regen is really hard to get, particularly in the percent form. There is the percentage that you get just base as a character. There's 1% you can get from Cloak of Defiance. And then there's this. And this gives 3%, which is exceptional. So this is most of our recovery. So if we look at our regen right now, I'm looking at 2.36 just standing here in town. If I summon 2 totems, it goes up, and 2, and 2, and we're at double that. Okay, we're double that. Then I use my mana flask. We're now at 5k. And then I press Arcane Cloak to give myself Arcane Surge, and we're at 5.6k. So, but as you can see, the totems give quite a bit of that recovery because of the 0.5% for each totem. So that's why we're Hierophant. There is a few other sources of mana regeneration, and they're up in Witch. So on the Elementalist, there is the on the Convergence node, or the one before the Convergence node, you get 1% mana regeneration per second if you have exposed an enemy recently, which is 1% compared to 3%. And then there is Necromancer, actually has 4% of mana regenerated over like 1 second or something. If you have, I think it's either consumed or created a corpse recently. I don't remember which one. And that one is actually interesting, and I was really trying to decide if I could do some kind of mana stacking Necromancer build. And there might actually be something there. I might have to investigate some kind of Detonate Dead, mana stacking. Maybe there's something there. I'll have to look into it. It would allow me to do something not totem-based, so maybe I could actually look at Archmage in that format. So I'll be looking into Necromancer for that purposes, but we'll see. So, the tree, we go through the mana regen, we grab the mana. The reduced mana cost of skills doesn't actually matter because literally 1 stack of Indigon quadruples how much that reduced my mana cost, so it literally doesn't matter. Life, we come through here mostly for the resists. This life is getting converted by a Healthy Mind Jewel, the power charge. Agnostic, of course, we get a shitload of mana recovery from this. I am taking Arcane Capacitor. This mastery is probably completely unnecessary. I'll probably actually drop this now that I think about it. The 10% chance to recover 10% of mana when you use a skill might be decent, but I actually don't think it is. We have so much mana recovery that 10% of my max mana is literally like a fourth of what I regen anyway. So, in fact, I'm actually going to remove this mastery. That mastery is pointless. That was something I took early on. I completely forgot I had it. Totems, we are taking this whole wheel because I want the tankiness on it. I took this mastery for the action speed. This is really, really important. Otherwise, your totem's going to get slowed by things like temporal bubbles and chill and stuff like that. It's really bad. You want to have this mastery. Of course, Ancestral Bond. I come up here for a Cluster Jewel. This is going to be more here. Once I level up a few more times, there's going to be more here. But for right now, we have a Scintillating Idea, of course. The mana stacking node you always take. And then I took a Totem Wheel because it's a couple things I really, really wanted. A was Onslaught. Onslaught just makes the build feel a lot smoother, and of course it's extra damage. And then Ancestral Preservation. This, in addition with these two nodes here, leads me to having totems with capped elemental resistance, pretty solid physical damage mitigation, and actually some chaos resistance here. And so all of that put together means that I end up with totems that actually don't die. They're actually quite tanky. I'm sure they would, die to Ubers or whatever, but they actually fare pretty damn nicely while mapping and for normal bosses. I'm sure you saw them. I think actually quite a few of them tanked the Phoenix Explosion. So yeah, they do pretty good. I definitely highly recommend Ancestral Preservation and these two nodes right here. I think the Fizz Mitigation one is probably the least important of these two, but definitely take this Ellie Res one. We come down here for Ellie Overload. Of course, we're going non-crit simply for point efficiency. I'd have to take a bunch of crit nodes to be able to make up the difference of Ellie Overload, and we're already kind of gimping our ability to be crit anyway by taking this amulet, so I think it's pretty obvious you just go non-crit, despite having 9 power charges. I know it's pretty silly. Then we are over here. We got our life, more mana. I come up here for just this node on this wheel. We get the 8% mana regen per power charge. This is really, really nice. I don't come up here for any of this because we aren't crit, so none of these are good. And increased damage is not really worth anything in the build. I passed here because I want the pin and I want the mastery. We get the mastery here for the non-critical strikes is lucky, which is very, very nice for us. It gives us a big damage boost. And then I have the +1 chain on this mastery. You can also go for the shock effect from increased mana. That one is good, and I will probably end up taking it over this +1 chain once I get into proper in-game bossing, because that will pretty much guarantee 50% shocks against everything. But this wheel is pretty good otherwise. This wheel is less good, but I think it constitutes reasonable usefulness because of this damage pin. Then we get the power charge. I come over here for more mana, and then down here. So, here's the Militant Faith Jewel. We're going for Dominus, of course, for the 3% more spell damage per power charge. But, specifically, you really want the one with all res per devotion, because it makes life so easy on the suffixes. This is giving me, let's see, how much devotion do I have? I have 160 devotion. So, this is giving me 32% all res. That's like, that's 2 whole suffixes on your gear. Actually, like, sometimes more than 2 whole suffixes on your gear. So, really, really, really good amount of all res getting out of this jewel. I then went for increased effective non-damaging ailments because, again, I really want those 50% shocks. And in the case of this, it also increased the effect of the chill from Vortex, and it helped me get sap as well from these gloves. So it ends up being very, very nice. You could also go for increased damage with totems, AoE, or I think there's elemental as well. Any of those are good. Don't go for the 0.6 mana. That does not add up to any real amount of mana regen. It's terrible. It's not worth it. And then I think that's all that's good in that particular slot. So go for this. As far as what we're actually doing with it, other than just being Dominus or Inner Conviction, I am utilizing one notable. It's in a terrible spot. This node right here is traditionally a lot of mana. It's 30% increased mana. Not having this really sucks. Yeah, it constitutes, let's see, yeah, 7480. Yeah, it constitutes like 600 mana not having this one node. So I'm going to try to get a different jewel that doesn't use this node. The ideal node would be Lord of the Dead, being this Ailment Immunity. But Frostwalker, or sorry, Lightning Walker is also decent, or any of these. But it had to be Frostwalker. Frostwalker is also decent because it is only 2 points, and then Mystical Bulwark is also decent because it is only 2 points, and one of the travel points is max mana. So it is not too bad either. So, those are the 3 that are okay. Mystic Bulwark, Lord of the Dead, and Frostwalker. They're the ones I want it on. But getting that on top of these 2 effects per devotion, it's hard to find. I have to do a lot of testing, a lot of searching on the trade website. It's hard to like specifically search for that. Even using the POB tool, there's so many different combinations that can give you that it's a little annoying. But anyway, the reason I want Cloistered is Ailment Immunity while on consecrated ground if you have at least 150 devotion. And in this particular spot where I'm taking all these nodes, I get 160. So we do reach that threshold. So we are immune to elemental elements while on consecrated ground. Well, you'll notice I have consecrated ground around me. That is because I am taking Forbidden Flame. So we have Forbidden Flame, Forbidden Flesh for Sanctuary, which is a Inquisitor node, and it gives us, you have consecrated ground around you while stationary. This is the important line. The 50% increased damage taken to enemies is not actually particularly good because A, it's not going to be very consistent, and B, it's additive with shock. So it's not actually particularly important. We are almost entirely here for the consecrated ground generation. Then the second part, or the third part of this Watcher's Eye is one of a kind. You're probably not getting something like this. So this combo I'm going over right now is a little inconsistent, and you may have issues replicating this. But I'm going to go through it, and there is one alternative, and then you could also simply have a slightly worse Watcher's Eye that doesn't have the mana recovery rate mod. It would definitely make your recovery rate quite a bit worse, but this Watcher's Eye is probably one of a kind. So you have to make sacrifices. You want to play a build like this with that exact technology in there. You could also just skip the Ailment Immunity entirely and just get Freeze Immunity here, and like some reduced effective chill and shock here on rings and flasks, and you would pretty much be okay anyway. So, anyway, Watcher's Eye mod. Effects of consecrated ground you create while affected by zealotry linger for 2 seconds. We have zealotry. So it lingers for 2 seconds, and we generate it when we are still, and while we have consecrated ground, we are immune to ailments. So basically what this means, that while I'm on consecrated ground, I am completely immune to stun from my boots, but then also ignite, chill, freeze, and shock. So see, when I move, it has a 2-second timer, and then it will go away. I'll lose that immunity, but, and this is why it's so consistent, if I'm just walking around like this, obviously I don't have it, but if I ever flame dash, another 2 seconds, flame dash, I have it for 2 seconds, flame dash, summon a totem, have it for 2 seconds. Anytime I cast an ability, with the exception of Arcane Cloak, that 2-second timer is reset. I never am walking around for longer than those 2 seconds without casting some ability. So it is a 100% uptime of Ailment Immunity, a bit of life regen, and 50% reduced effective curses on me. So that's a little tech that I've done for this build. I'm hoping to improve the Militant Faith to not take up this 30% increased mana node. I would really rather have that node, so I'm going to have to do some more looking around for that. But yeah, so that's what we're looking at. As far as the other option, you could totally run that jewel that gives you a chance to avoid ailments based on chance to avoid shock. If it's a Viridian jewel, everyone's trying to mythic orb them right now from Viridian jewels with the CP immunity and all that. So there's probably a bunch of those in the market because people are making them. Speaking of, I don't have CP immunity. Not that it's a huge deal because we're totem build. So yeah, you can run that. You then, instead of having these Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh, you can just run jewels that give you chance to avoid lightning ailments. You could even use this Ghastly Eye Jewel, or just a Eye Jewel, to also give you chance to avoid lightning ailments. That gives you lightning ailment immunity, and it is way simpler of a combo. So yeah, you can totally just do that. You'll have the one jewel for that jewel. You'll have another jewel slot opened up by not running the Forbidden Flesh for lightning ailment avoidance, and then this jewel for ailment avoidance. You may need to you may need to use one other jewel socket for more ailment avoidance, and that will give you ailment immunity as well. But it's a bit more expensive, kind of. I mean, this Watcher's Eye mod is insane, so it might even be considered cheaper. So, just something to think about as an alternative if there's no other versions of this Watcher Eye that exist, because I don't think there are. You might be able to get maybe a nice 2 Zealotry, 1 Clarity. You'll have less mana recovery rate, but maybe you can get more out of the Zealotry. I don't know. Anyway, so skill gems. Pretty simple. Just Arc. We're running Arc with multiple totems, spell totem support, added lightning damage, lightning pin, power charge on crit. I've got an Arcanist brand set up with conductivity and LA weakness. I'm then running Sigil of Power, and then Arcane Surge with Arcane Cloak, level 20, and then Righteous Fire as well, which we can run permanently. I'm then running Eternal Blessing with Zealotry, so this reserves no mana. Running Eternal Blessing with Zealotry, and then I just have this Vortex just to click on bosses. And then we're running Flame Dash with a level 3 Arcane Surge. This way, when we left click with this, we get a level 20 Arcane Surge, which is obviously better. But then, that's not going to have 100% uptime because of how Arcane Cloak works. So, we want to always have Arcane Surge though, so I put a lower level 1 on Flame Dash, and then we can have a higher level 1 on Arcane Cloak. So we'll always have Arcane Surge, it just sometimes a lower level, sometimes a higher level. And again, because I have the socket room. So. And then lastly, in order to be able to run 2 auras despite having Eternal Blessing, we're running Arrogance with Clarity. So we're reserving Clarity off of our life here. And that is obviously reserving quite a lot of our life pool. In fact, at this point, I should almost certainly switch this to a level 1 Clarity, and I think I will actually do that right now. I've been thinking about doing it, but I never got around to it. We can go ahead and look together at what the mana regeneration difference is like. If I have all the buffs up, everything good to go with a level 1 Clarity, we're at 5090. With a level 21, we lose about 500 mana regen. But I gain most of my life pool back. A pretty significant amount, in fact. About 500 life. That 500 life is getting multiplied by our 69% Mom effect into more of our mana pool, so it is actually quite a bit more effect than 500 life. That is probably worth the swap. We still need the Clarity for the Watcher's Eye mods, of course, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do that swap. Less mana regen is unfortunate, but it's still good. So, I'm probably going to go ahead and do that. Yeah, so that is the build. Again, let me know of any things you think I can do with the sockets. I suppose there's maybe increased duration of Arcane Cloak. Who knows? I need some things to do there. Cast on damage taken would be nice. I don't know for what. But, oh, Flasks. We're running a Mana Flask here. There's actually a specific reason why we're running a Mana Flask. I didn't actually show this part of the tree. We've got Essence Extraction. I forgot about this. This second mod here is actually not Flask recovery rate. It is generic mana recovery rate. So it is increased mana recovery rate during the effect of a Mana Flask. So while we have a Mana Flask, we get 15% increased mana recovery rate. That is a very big deal. So if we're doing everything right, we have 4,500 mana recovery. This is regeneration. A flask is recovery, not regeneration. So the actual recovery of the flask is not applying to this. But if we do all this and then press the flask, it jumps up by almost 700 or 600 regen. And that is this mod right here. I think that is worth the 3 points and the flask. You need as much mana regen as you can get, and another 600 mana regen is extremely valuable for a relatively low opportunity cost, in my opinion. You can maintain this Mana Flask during bossing very, very easily. If you end up running into issues with it, you can totally take this Mastery and it'll help you out. But I haven't had any issues with that, and this has been great. And then again, down here, I forgot to show this part of the tree. It's just mana and a drill socket and this life wheel. Nothing too fancy. Other flasks, I went for Chaos Resist with Reduced Shock Effect, Increased Duration. I've got Reduced Effective Curses on you with an Armor Flask. Got Increased Armor on a Movement Speed Flask. And then I've got a Sulfur Flask just to have another source of Consecrated Ground for bossing with some cast speed. There's no unique flasks that particularly make much sense for the build, so I haven't run any. As far as upgrades I'm going to be doing in the very near future, I'm going to be crafting a much better wand. This one is terrible. I just found it on the market and bought it so I could try out the accumulator wand idea. A corrupted Cloak of Defiance would be nice for some gem levels. Some awakened gem, particularly lightning pin and added lightning. Getting higher level and quality on some of these other things. I might look at better boots. I don't know really what to do there. I think the boots are pretty good, but might have to look to see if there's something better I could do with it. I'm not sure. Definitely going to upgrade the belt. Basically just going to spam more mana fossils on it. Shield, I think it's pretty much one of a kind. I don't think I can do a whole lot with it. I could probably go ahead and slam that suffix full. I don't know. I'm a little scared to do that because if I ever need a suffix craft to fix a resist or stats or something that I desperately can't fix anywhere else, I would like to be able to do it here. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers it for what I would upgrade for the build. Actually, no. I am going to get another jewel socket here with a small mana jewel with scintillating idea. So that's going to be another upgrade. I'll probably also take this overshock node here. There is nothing good you can get in the third slot for this build. None of these are going to be good, and overshock is always in the back, which is very unfortunate. It would be really nice to be able to get overshock right here, because then I can save a couple points. It is what it is, but overshock is pretty decent because effective lightning ailments is good for shock and for sap. However, to be honest, if you end up taking increases and reductions to max mana apply to shock effect, you totally do not need overshock, especially if you're not running these gloves. So this is completely unnecessary if you're going to have that mastery. So that's optional, but definitely get more scintillating idea on the small jewels here. That'll be what I'll do in the next few levels. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers the build. This is going to be the first video of the build. I'm going to keep working on this character, get some nice upgrades, improve it, and then I'll be back with another video with the upgrades and hopefully some bossing to show off. This has been a very long video, actually. There's apparently more mechanics to this than I remembered, than I thought. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this build, and I am excited to see how powerful it can get. I'll see you guys later. I hope you enjoyed.